England against Japan, folks. I have watched this one much belatedly. It was on at a similar time to the Super Rugby final, which I attended yesterday. I have had to lift the whiteboard to fit all the various different English try scorers. I suppose I could have just used smaller handwriting, but it would have been nice if some of the English try scorers had scored more than one try. No, it's 8 different try scorers for England and a red card to Charlie Ewels. But ultimately a pretty convincing victory over Japan. 52 points to 17 before their trip down here to New Zealand. They survived their kind of early onslaught from the Japanese, in which they only conceded 3 points. Then their forwards got to work, absolutely dominated the game in the heat. Decent crowd there, which was nice to see them getting involved, but they didn't have that much to cheer about, sadly, for them. And the card kind of puts a dampener on what was otherwise a very, very encouraging one from England. I mentioned Japan had an early onslaught, like just playing the game high tempo. They get a penalty, 3-0. They even get a scrum penalty, but I found it a bizarre choice for Japan in the first 10 minutes when they had that territorial and possession pressure to try and maul it over England's line. Been following the stats of the Japanese team for a long time now, and the most they ever mauled it in one game last year was 4 times, and that was against Chile when they did have a genuine advantage in their pack. Their pack was bigger and stronger than the Chilean pack. That's not an advantage Japan goes into with many of their other opponents, and England certainly not. But yet they tried to maul it twice against England when they had a bit of ball in England's 22, and they got nothing from it. So it seemed a bizarre choice. Like, Japan mauled it 4 times in this game. Many games Japan don't maul it at all. They look to play high tempo. They look to play, quick taps. They want to try sneaky line-out moves. They want to keep the ball moving. They want to keep big opposition forward packs moving around. They don't want to go up the guts necessarily because it doesn't play into their strengths. So I found that bizarre. And from about that first 10 minutes that England kind of weathered, England just wrestled control of the game. Forwards got on top. They won a scrum penalty. The forwards directly lead to Cunningham-South with the first try. Massive line-out move, like slick, which is the kind of thing you wanted to see from Japan. Sends Marcus Smith over for one, like massive space. A thing of beauty. Try the English attack coaches will be phenomenally impressed with how well that one went. Feyi-Waboso got one with a wide ball from Marcus Smith that was from kind of built up to with a 50-22 and the pressure from the forward. So it's great stuff from England. Bang, bang, bang. 3 tries. They've weathered the early storm and suddenly they're 3 points to 21 up. 21-3. Costley did think he'd scored one for Japan, but there was a knock on the build-up, which is kind of unfortunate. And Japan's defense did kind of improve. Like they were able to hold out England for a pretty extended period from the Feyi-Waboso try pretty much until half-time, right until there was a cross kick to Slade from Marcus Smith. That kind of unlocked their defence once again. Like, they had been doing all right for that kind of 10-minute period after conceding those 3 tries, but there is the 4th try, and it is also a beautiful one. Phenomenal kick, and England take a 26-3 lead into the sheds at halftime, and they continue the pressure in the second half. I mean, Mitchell gets one, nice snipe, and dummy makes it 33-3, and then the camera pans at one point to Michael Leitch, who's a stalwart for Japanese rugby, 35 years old now, and he looks knackered. He does play the 80, and he keeps going. He's got a big engine on him, but it's a big defensive shift. And like Japan are hanging on, and they don't hang on for that long because Mitchell sets up Ben Earl not long later. Just kind of a wee snipe and pops it to Earl, who's able to kind of just trundle it over the line. So 38-3. The crowd's not had much to really get behind, have they? But I mean, they did. I mean, credit to Japan. They kept fighting on 53 minutes. The crowd did have something to cheer about. Japan went like 15 phases. It's nice to see your team actually have the ball for a change. I mean, Smith gets yellow carded for an early tackle, but then there's a bit of a let-off for England when they win a penalty at scrum time, so Japan kind of lets England off with a free exit. And then even with the yellow card, England's still able to build pressure. Randall, who comes on, he's able to snipe basically straight through. There's no guard at the side of the ruck, and 45-3. Then during the yellow card as well, Matsuda, who's one of the kind of more senior players, comes off the bench for the restart, and he kicks it not 10. So first game of the season, I don't want to be too harsh on them. They blooded a lot of young players, but there was some kind of poor stuff in this game from Japan against a good England team. So it's a balance of being a bit disappointed with their performance levels, and but just some of the stuff, like I said, the mauling, which just seemed tactically poor, not going 10, that kind of stuff is just you expect to see a little bit better. The Japanese kind of interest levels did rise again, trying to get the crowd going. Like the intensity of the game certainly picked up. England's defense was rushing up, and Japan eventually did manage to kind of find a way to get around it, which was pleasing, and it got Japan into some space, and eventually this man, Nezuka, on 66 minutes is able to go over on the left wing. The sub Yamamoto had come on, and he had a big kind of carry in the build-up, so that at least got them a try on the board. And then not long later, Dearns, with the kind of one-handed take behind his back, sets up Yamasawa for a try as well. So 45-17, that's at least looking a bit more respectable. The crowd's had, a few moments to cheer about. Like, it sucks if you're in the crowd and your team's just getting hammered. Your kind of natural instinct is to go a bit quiet, I suppose. But then there's a kind of a sour incident for England in terms of what's been an otherwise really good performance when Charlie Yules goes in for a clean out on Michael Leitch, and the commentators mentioned it multiple times. Thank goodness Michael Leitch lifts his foot right as Yules clatters into his leg. Otherwise it would have been, I think, a big old snap. But he drives Leitch back, but not a good look. You've seen those end horrendously poorly in the past. So Yules not going into that one with enough control, gets yellow carded initially, and he gets upgraded to a red. So if he comes to New Zealand, it will basically be to hold tackle bags, I suppose. But despite the red card, Underhill was still able to go over for one last try for England to make it a 52-17. So overall, very positive for England. I do think there are still work-ons for sure. There's certain things that they got away with against Japan, which I don't think they will get away with against New Zealand. Like, if we look at the stats, the run meters are 348 to 360, so England edged that. England certainly kicked a lot more, 29 kicks to 17. That's been an integral part of England's game under Steve Borthwick, and it kind of continues there. Japan's low kicking is not that surprising. They had kicked a little bit more last year than in previous years, but fewer than 20 kicks is kind of normal for the Japanese team. But England had more possession, they had more territory, they had more clean breaks, 8-5. But one area, I think, defenders beaten, Japan has 33 to England's 22. If you're going to cough up 33 missed tackles, basically, against the All Blacks, I feel like you're going to be in trouble. So the defensive shift will need to be a bit better. Remember, England has not played together as a group for a very long time. They're playing in the heat of the Japanese summer, so some of that's to be expected, but a tackling percentage of 81% when they get down to New Zealand is going to need to be improved, I would say, by quite a bit. Japan, 15 turnovers conceded to England, 7. That area of the game, England was very good, quite clinical. They didn't muck up a lot of ball, whereas Japan, on the other hand, a few too many of those errors. Also, the penalty count was pretty high, 13 by Japan, 16 by England. So those are the kind of two areas. Just the tackling and the discipline a wee bit will need to be better. But this is the kind of game, we saw it in the Welsh and South African game as well. A little bit of rust kind of being shaken off, as it's the first game for these teams in quite some time. Individuals, Naikabula has 4 defenders beaten for Japan. Costley makes 12 from 12 tackles. For the English guys, 3 guys stood out with their defensive shifts. Earl, Cunningham-South and Martin both made 13 from 15 tackles. It would have been better if it was 15 from 15, but the missed tackles across the squad did add up a little bit. Mitchell beat 4 defenders. He was cracking. Feyi-Waboso, a couple of defenders beaten, and 46 metres from him as well. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts on this one. If you want England Rugby gear, check out England Rugby store down in the description. They are an affiliate of the channel. All kinds of good stuff to grab from the store. They've always got sales on as well, so check them out if you're keen on some England Rugby gear. But yeah, you guys let us know your thoughts, and I'll talk to you guys again soon. See you later.